Okay, for this video, we're going to demonstrate how you jump to a label. And in other words, we're going to jump over a bunch of nets and not execute those and jump over them. And we're probably going to put a condition in there for when that jump is going to occur. So we're not going to create a program in this video. We're going to show you a program which should make it a little bit shorter to do. You can see this demo program that is written here. The comment says that you can jump over nets by using labels. Anything that's jumped over isn't going to execute. The outputs aren't going to change because there's no code there. You're not going to have that code to turn the output on or off, so they can't do anything. So they're just going to remain in the states that they are there. Nothing's going to tell them to turn on or off. Just like they weren't in the program. And the labels must be added to the program. They're a little bit different than comments. You can see this label here, net2, and if you right click on here, you can see insert new label, and that's how you would do it. We have all those labels in there: net2, net3, net4, net5. So you have to have labels in your program to be able to jump over from one location to the other. The online tool isn't going to be used for execution. We're going to bring it up a screen and show you what's going to happen as that's there. If you try and figure this out or understand the program using the online tool and looking at the operands and the execution of the rungs, you might come to some false conclusions. So we build an HMI screen for that. It's very similar, very simple HMI screen, and it shows you the jump visually. Okay, so you have to use the online tool or online test mode and the screen for the HMI display, or you can just run it on the PLC and use the HMI display, see what's there. So let's take a look at the program. It's rather simple. What we've done is on a number of rungs, we've put a switch, and that switch turns on an indicator. So you can see on net 1, we have these rungs, or just this one rung of code that's a switch and an indicator. When I hit the switch on, this indicator will turn on too. And I've implemented that in the HMI display. Net 2, I've done something a little bit different there. I've created a switch, and that's what executes the jump, and you'll see that this is going to jump to net 6. And this is pretty easy to put in here. It's not available on the bar over here on the left. You have to go to the utilities menu, go to call, and jump to label. And when you put that on here, it's going to come up with a screen and tell you what net you want to jump to. It's going to give you a list, and you pick that. We picked net 6. So nets 3, 4, and 5 are going to be jumped over when this switch is true. We're going to implement a toggle switch in the HMI interface to trigger that. Net 3, 4, and 5, once again, just switches on the HMI interface and indicators. And when I press those, that should come on. Pretty simple ladder logic. We made it as simple as we can to convince you that when you jump over these aren't going to be part of the code anymore. And then net 6, we just put a simple switch and an indicator on there again. So what's going to happen when this program scans continuously is this switch and indicator combination in net 1 is always going to work, and this switch and indicator combination in net 6 is always going to work. And the switches and indicator combinations in net 3, 4, and 5 are going to conditionally function depending on whether I'm jumping over those nets or not. Okay, so quickly, here's what the startup display looks like. If I press this button, this should come on. They're just momentary, So when I leave it go, it's off, just to convince you that it's working. Same way with net 3, 4, 5, and 6. This switch is going to force the jump to happen. So when the jump happens, these 3 nets or rungs, whatever you want to refer to them, they're not going to function anymore when I jump over them and don't execute that code. So let me download the code here. Hopefully you understand it. As always, I have these available so that you can pick them up and run them yourself. So I'm going to download the code to there. By the way, as I told you, when you execute this code just online and watch the main routine, it's easy to come to false conclusions. So I think the HMI display shows it very clearly. We'll let the code sit up at least so that you can see it, and we'll run the main screen, and we'll hit some buttons as we go along. So I'm gonna right now the jump is in the off position. We'll verify that, right? So I can press this button on that one, the light comes on. I press these buttons, so I'm sorry, the jump was on, it wasn't off. So I'm going to turn it off first. You can see the red button and it's off. You can see I hit net 3 and the lights go on. I hit net 4. You know, all that code is functioning, and this is also. Okay, so that's just the program code running through the whole thing. When I flip this toggle switch, the jump is going to occur. Now it's going from net 2, where that toggle switch is, the whole way to net 6, and it's skipping 3, 4, and 5. You'll notice 1 and 6 still work fine. 3, 4, and 5, the indicator doesn't come on. The buttons look like you're pressing them, and that's because that's happening in the HMI screen, not in the ladder logic code. But you'll notice the ladder logic code was pretty simple. If I hit that button or press it down, as long as I press it down, the indicator should come on, and it's not. So what's happening is that code's not executing and the jump is occurring. If I flip the toggle switch for the jump back, now the program functions as like it's an entire program without any jumps or any codes being skipped. So that gives you a good example of a jump instruction. It's not used very often in the PLC world, but it could be that if you have one condition and you had 35 rungs that didn't have to execute, if that condition was true, that would save you a lot of scan time. You wouldn't have to execute those 35 rungs. Different PLCs implement this in different ways. Some go a little bit further along, and they'll call it a master control reset, and they set up a whole zone where none of the outputs could turn on at all. And that's sort of like the relay logic world putting a relay, a master control relay, into the actual ladder portion of the code, the cut off for safety reasons or whatever, so none of those outputs would go on. Safety wise, they don't like putting that code in a PLC. They like that being done on something that isn't running code with a condition that may stop that safety thing from occurring. But they have implemented master control resets in PLC ladder logic. Things like the Allen Bradley world uses that. The Unitronics doesn't do that. They use a jump instruction. And I think this provides it. You can play around with this on your own. Just download the program when you catch the link for where it's at.